Hi there and welcome to Cocktail Mode, the podcast where me, Andy and my mate Dave pick a retro game and try and pair it with a cocktail. Today's game is Air Combat, as it was originally called, the Ace Combat series in general, and we're going to talk about lots of other flying games as well. So buckle in as we head to Strangereal for all things Ace Combat.
I don't know about you, but I'd already played a lot of flight sims before Ace Combat. It certainly wasn't the first I'd ever played.
No, I mean, one of my favourite games on the Spectrum was a flight game, and that would have been... I remember playing that when my Spectrum was set up underneath my cabin bed at home. So, and that was a game called Delta Wing.
Delta Wing, okay, I didn't know that one.
Where the graphics, your plane was represented by a wireframe triangle with another triangle on top of it.
Excellent.
As were the enemies.
Yeah.
But yes, I remember that probably in my brain. It was quite similar to Ace Combat in that I don't think it had particularly limited weaponry, just for the reason that I don't think I would have enjoyed it very much. And for the millionth time we've mentioned on this podcast, I am an arcade gamer first and foremost. If Ace Combat had 4 missiles per aircraft and a mission where you had to fly for a real-time half an hour to get there, I would never have played it. Not my sort of thing.
Yeah.
Delta Wing, I seem to remember being in that similar sort of crossover.
Yeah.
The world is represented by the bottom of the screen being green and the top of the screen being blue. The cockpit is represented for about the bottom third of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's got, you can see your knees and the control stick on the right.
Nice.
And they move around as you're flying. Just a little bit of animation. It's just
I was going to say, is that similar to the remember the Aliens game where there's actually only the middle third of the screen anything happens?
Yeah.
It's to cut down. It's to cut down on processing.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I guess it probably was, but at the same time, it kind of worked. And it's got loads of stuff. It's got airspeed, altitude, flaps, because you have to land. I remember landing was really fucking hard.
Mm.
I used to play that for absolutely ages. And you know what I've just remembered? Being a Spectrum game, pretty much zero sound.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a little when you're firing your gun.
Yeah.
But so I used to listen to music while I was playing it.
Is it Kenny Loggins?
I remember specifically listening to Roxette when I was playing that game. So that will date it more accurately. 1988, because it was off the album. So 1988, I was playing Delta Wing, which was at that time 4 years old.
Yeah.
And would have been, say, one of the first games I ever played a massive amount of. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
How about you? What's the first one you remember playing?
One of the first ones I can remember playing is a game called ATF on the Amstrad, Advanced Tactical Fighter. That was really good. Really enjoyed that.
Was that in cockpit?
No, it's behind the plane. It's
okay.
Sort of a vaguely futuristic plane. It's not strictly real world.
Yeah.
But that was really good. It's behind the plane. You have targets that you have to go off and shoot. And then every now and then you'll get an enemy plane appear behind you. And you have to just basically turn left or right until they go away. It's really advanced. But no, I remember that being really, really good fun. But the main two that I always sort of hark back to, there was an ST game called Gunship that me and my mate Barry used to play on the ST, and he'd basically do the flying with the joystick, and I'd effectively be the co-pilot with the keyboard.
Right.
It had one of those cardboard overlays that went over the keyboard to tell you what everything did, which obviously, if you're trying to fly the bloody thing, you don't have the time to look for where's chaff, where's flares. So we used to play it as a team. It was like one of the first proper sort of co-op experiences of playing a game. And it was brilliant.
That's quite cool.
Because as you took damage, there's you've got the bottom half of the screen is your cockpit, and then the top is your actual view. But along the top edge of the cockpit view, there's all these little indicators, and they're basically when things get damaged or stop working, they go yellow and then red.
Right.
But they're like 3-letter codes, and if you don't know what they are and what's gone wrong, you don't know how screwed you are. So I'd be sat there with the manual open on the page that has all this list of what they are, But you could tell. I mean, if the main rotor gets shot, you just fall out the sky and crash.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
But if it's something like, radar stops working, well, that's okay. We kind of know where we need to go. But that was fantastic. I used to love that. Never really played it much like as a solo thing.
Yeah.
But that co-op experience of being like the co-pilot to somebody, I thought that was great. If you could make a game these days that was like that would be really enjoyable. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. No, that does sound very cool.
And then the other one, also an ST game, was Falcon, which is a F-16 flight sim.
Of course, yes.
Brilliant and very, very well reviewed, like incredibly detailed. Like they got like actual like people from the US Air Force to be like consultants on it when they were making it.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's all these. Pretty much all these games are made by Microprose as well. I don't think Falcon.
Yeah.
I don't think Falcon is actually, but all of the others that you could ever mention are F-19 that I said about earlier on. That's another one. Microprose. It's what they did. They did simulations really, really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Falcon was fantastic. That was really good.
I think I remember seeing that.
There is a series of them. I can only ever remember playing the first one.
I think I've got an Amiga flight sim that I've not actually played in a big box.
Mm-hmm. It's F-15 Strike Eagle.
F-15 Strike Eagle 2 is what I've got on the Amiga. Yeah,
that's very good.
Never played it. Is it?
It is very good. Yeah.
And it's one of those games that came with the Amiga when I bought it as a packing. So I got my Amiga 600 with it. I've never actually got around to playing it.
No, it is very good. Well, it was very good back then.
Yeah.
It may not have stood up quite as well.
I guess being on the Amiga, it'd be mouse controls as well, and I'm not a big fan. So.
No, it would be joystick.
Oh, of course it would, yeah, but one button then. But I guess you'd all the loads of shit on the keyboard.
Joystick and keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another flying game that was top down in a Tornado low level.
All right.
Very early Spectrum game, and for a long time, considered the best game on the Spectrum.
Okay.
And kind of a forerunner to that Desert Strike kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were, over the landscape, but you could go up and down.
Yeah.
So the screen never rotated. So if you fly up and down the screen, so you'd be flying up and down the screen, not, there was no rotation. And that was, a very early game, but very cool.
Yeah.
And I remember for some reason, I have no idea why, but I've always loved the Tornado as an aeroplane. Swing wing and, being British and all that sort of thing.
Mm.
Always like that. So that was good.
I can't believe neither of us have mentioned Afterburner yet.
Oh, for fuck's sake. How could we not have mentioned Afterburner? Shitty hell.
One of the best arcade experiences ever was getting in that thing. we were on holiday once, and my uncle, because I just wanted to go in the arcades constantly, and my uncle saw Afterburner and decided he'd go and have a go, and it was the full cabinet that moves around and everything. And he got off it and he was sick. I'll never forget it. It was hilarious.
Oh, brilliant. It's really hard. It's like constant. It's an absolute barrage. I love it, obviously, but it's so fucking hard.
I'll tell you what, the Amstrad version is brilliant.
Is it?
Yeah, really good. I used to love that.
I tell you what, the Spectrum version wasn't.
There's a shock.
I mean, to be fair, it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't great either. But again, there was on the 3DS, they did a sort of a re-release series of lots of games that they put the 3D effect on, like Outrun, Hang On, and all that. And I'm pretty sure they did. Weirdly, all these re-release versions of Afterburner tend to be Afterburner 2.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's about. I think Afterburner 2 was very much an upgrade rather than a proper sequel. So maybe they just don't bother. But yeah, what a great game Afterburner. And again, it's one of those proper classic arcade games, isn't it? And it's when you think, again, a bit rose-tinted glasses about the arcade, your ideal arcade had an Outrun cabinet.
A super hang-on bike.
Well, yeah, exactly that. Yeah, you've got a power drift somewhere. There's a whole bank of Street Fighter 2's 4-player
Bad
turtles.
Dudes versus Dragon Ninja.
All that stuff. And a fully like move aroundy afterburner.
Mm.
What was the sequel? G-Lock, wasn't it? Not an actual sequel. It was
Oh yeah, it was just another Sega game, wasn't it?
a spiritual successor.
Didn't have that almost have like a full 360 rotating arcade machine?
Yeah, it looked like a big wheel.
Yeah, never played it.
No, there was one in London when we went to London with the school to one of the museums, and we all chipped off and went to an arcade. And there was one in one of the arcades, but it was like a queue for it was long. So, we didn't. But to see it moving, it's just exciting to see back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a great one on the links.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to get a fucking Game Boy game in, so I'm going to have to go for the links instead. One of the launch games was called Blue Lightning.
Oh, okay.
And that's a very, very much sort of somewhere between Afterburner and Air Combat in terms of like very arcadey. And that was very cool. Very smart little game. Lots of fun, that one. I think there are very few flying games that fall into my, as I say, my arcadey leanings. I think a lot of those F-15 games on the Amiga and things like that were pitched or certainly advertised as simulators, as much as they probably look and play ridiculously now compared to what we have. That's how they were, so I wouldn't have really been interested in that. So I think the sort of the crossover for me, that Delta Wing, Ace Combat kind of area. Oh, Wing Over, you mentioned. They're a similar sort of vibe, aren't they?
Yeah. Just remember another one I forgot to mention. Aero Wings on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
It was the game that I bought with my Dreamcast. Loved that game. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I always thought it was a bit of a shame that they added combat into the second one.
Yeah.
Just the idea of a pacifist flight sim. Who would have ever thought that would sell?
So Dreamcast, isn't it? That is so Dreamcast.
We'll package it with the console and make it a $5 less. But no controller. You got to buy your own controller.
God bless the Dreamcast. Don't say anything negative about it ever. So you said you went and played the first one?
Yes, I did.
How did you enjoy the first one?
It's rough. I won't deny it's rough, but it is playable. It's not as good as I remember it looking, but it's still good. As soon as I started playing it, I realised it's got the simplified controls by default.
Yeah.
And I had to turn that off very, very quickly.
Yeah, right there with you. I did exactly the same thing. Because you can't change them in game, can you? And you pause and no menu comes up. It's weird how early a game it is, because you can tell the sort of the standards, the things that you just sort of expect from a PlayStation game, they're not there.
Yeah. Well, wasn't it? I think it was one of the first games to use the analog sticks.
Well, it doesn't use the analog stick, the first one. You may have had the analog sticks mapped on your emulator, but on the original hardware, it doesn't use the analog sticks.
Really?
I think it was pretty much a launch title for the PlayStation.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, no analogy sticky.
That's a shame. Well, anyway, it played quite well.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's just up, down, left, right, and it's not going to...
Yeah.
So I played it on my backwards compatible PS3.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it looked that bad.
Yeah. Well, the trouble is, I've got the settings on the emulator that I use improve 3D rendering.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it actually does look like what I saw.
Well, I played it on that, and the built-in, for those that understand these things, my PS3 is the 60 gig version with the proper backwards compatibility, and it has an extra setting where you can smooth things out. It's got a little bit of post-processing in it, so you can add that, and it's great. And it stretches it out to widescreen, and you have to turn that off as well, but it lets you turn it off at least, so that's quite cool. But still, it's on I think it's a 40-inch TV, my TV.
Yeah.
With no scan lines or anything like that, and I was just like, I don't believe it looks this bad. So I switched it out and played it on my PS2, which is still hooked up to my CRT from when we did Time Crisis.
Oh yeah.
And it genuinely looks a lot better. It's like, this is the hardware it was designed for. This is,
yeah.
So it worked. I think it helps. It's a 14-inch TV.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of, it just helps things look better. But yeah, it looked a lot nicer now. But it's so slow. It's like, my God, this is... And I remember doing, I don't know whether it was you or somebody else, doing the 2-player dogfight thing for fucking ages. It must have been just turn. Just... That's the thing that got me. It got me how slow it was.
Really?
Yeah, it really took me by surprise. And other than that, I think it played absolutely fine still.
Yeah.
It's nice. I mean, graphically, it's not that much better than a SNES game, is it? I mean, the 3D models were obviously better, but in terms of the environment and the ground mapping and all that sort of thing, nothing that Pilot Wings didn't do.
Yeah. I think the difference there is that back in those days, certainly, you would have had to sacrifice draw distance for clarity.
Yeah.
It's always been one of the big criticisms of Driver. The pop in on cars coming down the street at you was horrific.
Yeah.
Because they went a little bit more towards detail than view distance.
Yeah, G-Police is on the list, isn't it? But I think the way that handled that was very cool. But was it G-Police 2? It did the wireframe thing.
Oh, yeah, I do remember.
It was either G-Police or G-Police 2. It wireframed everything, and then it popped in the detail as it got closer, which is a cracking way of dealing with that. And it kind of fit the tone of the game as well.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I think now you say I think it might be G-Police 2.
I don't remember a wireframe model in G-Police.
My Ace Combat 1, or Air Combat as we call it, which is the wrong thing to call it, by the way. It's only in Europe it's called Air Combat.
Well, there's some debate about, I was going to say, it's based on an arcade game called Air Combat, so
yeah,
technically.
But the PlayStation game in Japan and America was called Ace Combat. And I think it started life as a version of that arcade game, but changed along the way.
Yeah, they abandoned it quite quickly, apparently.
Yeah. I don't remember that arcade game at all.
No, I'm looking at a picture of the arcade cabinet, and I must say I want one. It's a big, chunky, like, proper pilot seat with a big screen in front of you, but, like, most of a cockpit in front of you as well.
Oh, nice.
So as part of, like, the seating area. So you've got stick, you've got throttle, you've got readouts and things that may or may not work. They may just be printed.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. I'd love to play it.
On Air Combat, Ace Combat 1, I'll pick one eventually.
We'll go with Ace Combat.
Okay.
Because every other game in the series is Ace Combat.
This is true. I always prefer to play flying games and driving games, weirdly, from outside the vehicle. I like to see my thing. Wait. There's a joystick joke there somewhere, but I'll...
I'm not touching that one. Or the joystick. Not after last time.
But yeah, I do. I like to see the vehicle, and I don't know what it is. It's sort of widely regarded by everybody in the world as not the right way to play driving games or flying games.
Definitely flying games. Driving games depends on the game.
With Ace Combat, you get no information at all from outside the plane. You don't get an altimeter, a speed readout. You get nothing.
Good.
But with those early PlayStation graphics, I think is the kindest way to describe that shit show. It's impossible to know how far you are from the ground. I think it does tell you how far you are because the targeting is there, so it tells you how far you are away from the enemy. So that's handy. It's just one of those things. It's like you go to your hangar and you pick an aeroplane, and it's like I want to see it. If I pick a Tomcat, I want to see the wings sweep back when I go fast.
Does it? I've never seen it.
Do you know what? I can't remember. I was playing it earlier, but I can't remember whether it does on the first one. It definitely does, like, afterwards. From then on,
yeah,
all that happens. And obviously, as the games go on, the amount of detail gets nuts. Like the thrust vectoring and all that on the later games, air brakes, the rudder and ailerons don't even move on Air Combat. The model is completely static. So yeah, that's how basic it is. Which, as I say, it's not a million miles from a SNES. It's not a million miles from Star Fox, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it is a distance from that. It's not a million miles, but it is more than a mile.
Yeah, but it's not like a jump, is it?
No, it's not a generational jump.
No, exactly.
But like we said, it's one of the launch games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very early.
The models are obviously more detailed than a SNES could do and run at that sort of speed, but at the same time the models are just a solid block of thing. There is no extra detail, no animation there. The windscreen glass is black. It's that. Yeah. That basic. Yeah. How much of Ace Combat did you play? Because there's a night mission about 5 in. Did you get to that one?
I don't think I got that far. I got up to, I think the third mission is when you do like a ground assault on a naval base.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. Played that for quite a bit. And then I thought, I think I've seen enough of this to not need to play much more of it. Because I want to see the others. I want to see 2 and 3.
Yeah. I got to, I think, the mission after that, or maybe one further than that, is a night mission. Because I decided I was going to play until I got to the ravine run.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's where I wanted to get to. So I wanted to compare the ravine runs across the game.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. Spoilers. It never happened. But yeah, I got to this night mission, and as I say, it just, the graphics and the very, very sluggish controls conspire against you to hit buildings you're trying to shoot at. I don't know if you picked up playing it on a ROM, but on the original, it's got the Japanese button configuration where O is yes and X is no.
Circle.
Yes, that's the one. Circle. And cross, I guess. It's not X, is it? It's cross. To be double pedantic. So yeah, which is again quite weird to get your head around.
Yeah. It's a Namco thing.
Yes, it is.
To this day, it's still a Namco thing.
But it makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, yes and no.
Exactly. It's yes and no. Cross is no. Circle is yes. I mean, it makes sense. Because I played one of the PlayStation 2 ones very recently, I've only just finished, really, in relative terms, playing 7 through. Mm-hmm. I felt that step backwards onto that properly sluggish, really heavy controls. So I didn't play it for very long. I went on to number 2. I was in CEX, and they had Ace Combat 2 and 3 for the PlayStation for sale.
Sweet. How much?
Picked them up 15 quid for 2, tenner for 3.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And I went to the counter and bought them and put them down in front of the skeezer, and he started bagging them up for me. And his colleague come along and went, "Aren't they the games you were going to buy?" And he went, "Yes." And I went, "Sorry, mate." And he went, But yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. 2 is immediately better in every single regard.
Yep.
I was unsure first of all because I got very excited because I opened the box and the manual fell out and there was a flyer inside for the Nedgecon controller, which I've mentioned before.
Oh, is it compatible?
It's compatible with an Nedgecon controller. Again, for our listeners, if you don't know, Google it. It's a controller that twists in the middle, usually for steering and driving games, but it's also got 4 analog buttons, possibly 3, but definitely 3, possibly 4. Oh my god, that's amazing. So I plugged it into the PlayStation, got it already. It is impossible to play that game with the Nedgecon controller. I think it's like genuinely, imagine stepping on a bike and you steered with your feet and you powered it by bouncing up and down, and the brakes were by banging your head against something. Yeah, that's what it's like. It's so weird, which is a real shame because all that analog would have been awesome, but no, it didn't work. So yeah, that lasted, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe a minute tops.
Well, you gave it a good go then.
Oh yeah, I just thought, I'm not ready to relearn this. It might work.
It might take you a week to learn.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's been so long of playing those games and having the same controller setup. I've played most of the numbered games in the Ace Combat series and a couple of the spin-offs as well, with exactly the same control system all the way through. So the idea of doing something new, even playing Air Combat, I kept reaching for the analog stick, even though rather than the D-pad, even though I knew it didn't work, in the middle of a game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that much built in. So yeah, that unfortunately my Nedgecon moment failed fast. But Ace Combat 2 is awesome.
Yeah, I liked it. I played it for probably about half an hour or so. Thought it was quite good. Might go back to it at some point.
Yeah, well, I think it all kind of comes together, doesn't it? It kind of it's just that bit faster. It's that much more responsive. It's just everything. It's a progression in every single department.
Yeah.
And it's the first time this whole the story and the world of Ace Combat is mentioned and starts to come together. Did you learn much about Strangereal in your research?
I did read up on Strangereal, which for about the first 10 minutes of reading I thought was like Strangereal or something. And then I saw the E and I thought, oh wait, no, Strangereal. Oh, Strangereal is much better.
Yeah, I like Strangereal.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same plot every time, isn't it? Every game is the same thing. There's a revolution in a fictional country on a fictional planet. You're either the ace or the retired ace or a prisoner who just happens to be an ace pilot who gets embroiled in this ridiculous story about a revolution or counter-revolution or insurgency of some kind. You variously defend or attack a giant plane at some point. You always chase a missile at some point, and there's always a ravine in every single game.
Yeah.
There's a formula to them, but it's obviously a winning formula because they are very good games. And they still sell well.
The chances of any of our, call it a round 100, just for argument's sake, that's probably being generous to ourselves, but the chances of any of them being a full-on Ace Combat junkie is very, very low, which is good for you because saying that about it would have you on their shit list in a big way. Because people love the stories of these games.
Do they?
Particularly, there's the free PlayStation 2 games, which are considered like the Holy Trilogy.
I've never played them.
Oh, have you not?
No.
See, this is where all this Strangereal stuff really comes into its own.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've kind of jumped ahead here, but Ace Combat 3 is different in Europe and America to it was in Japan. In Japan, it was a much bigger game with animated story sequences, branching storylines, and all sorts of in-depth gubbins, and it all got chopped out. They couldn't basically afford to translate it and re-record all the audio. So, I haven't played Electrosphere, Ace Combat 3, and now I've heard that the Japanese one has a fan translation because I say these fans are nutters.
Yeah.
So they're happy to translate the thousands of lines of dialogue for this game. I'm going to find that. It's available online as a fan translation, so I'm going to find that and play it because I'm much more interested in that. But that's a really weird plot, and it's set in the future of this whole Strangereal parallel universe thing. And so it's a little bit of an odd one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole thing where it comes together, there's basically the plot is there's an asteroid that makes planetfall and wipes out big chunks of the world, sends countries back into the Dark Ages and causes revolutions and wars and all that. And these games are set in the aftermath of that, really.
Yeah. The asteroid's going to hit, they develop a weapon to blow it up, and doing so makes it worse because instead of one giant asteroid, the planet gets pelted by billions of tiny asteroids. Yeah,
pretty much. So they develop a weapon called Stonehenge, and it basically after it has destroyed the asteroid and caused lots of smaller planetfall, do they call it, something like that? Can't remember. It is then used as an anti-aircraft defense and makes them the world superpower off the back of it. But I think it's a really interesting setup for, as you think, I guess they didn't know how long it's going, but to have an asteroid falling, causing all this, it's a really interesting idea, I think. It's not just, oh look, this company's got lots of money, so they start invading people. It's not like real life. Yeah. Where Russia just go, oh fuck this NATO bollocks, I'm going to invade Ukraine.
Twice.
I think it's quite an interesting setup. I think that's quite. And yeah, the super fans, the Ace Combat folk, they're big fans of it and they love it. But yeah, the free games 4, 5, and 6, which all have their numbers removed in Europe. Distant Thunder is one, Squadron Leader is the other, and the Balkan War is the third one.
Shattered Skies is 4.
Bollocks.
Unsung War is 5. There's a Game Boy Advance version I'm sure you'll mention. Ace Combat 0, which is the Balkan War.
Yes.
Ace Combat X, Skies of Deception.
So what you've got there are the American names. They were renamed in Europe just to be really confusing. But 0 remains the Balkan War, but they basically removed the numbers from all the marketing and boxes in Europe. They're still in the game. You start the game and it still says Ace Combat 4, 5 or 6, obviously. I don't know why they keep changing the names for stuff. But yeah, those are the games that really built up the fan base. Electrosphere was a bit of a miss. Oh yeah, you mentioned the Game Boy Advance version.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did.
Normally, when I when we're doing these and I find out there's a Game Boy something or other version that I've not played and never heard of before, I go straight to eBay and buy it.
Without ever looking anything up.
Yeah, luckily on this occasion, the first thing I saw about it was a video, and it looks fucking awful.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like it's a top-down fly around, and it's a long way short of like the Strike games or anything top-down that's good, because there were a lot of great top-down shooter games. I mean, the Strike games weren't, whether they were isometric.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks shockingly bad. So I did not buy it.
Never released in Japan.
No, I saw that actually.
That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I suppose it depends who developed it, really, doesn't it?
Mm.
I suspect it was, again, if you make something in English, you've got, pretty much the entirety of Europe and America to sell it in, and you don't have to pay anyone to translate it, do you?
Yeah, so.
But the PlayStation 2 trilogy, it's an interesting approach, because it's quite an anti-war message to a game where you spend hours shooting down aeroplanes.
They don't glorify what's going on, do they, really?
No.
It is quite an anti-war message.
Yeah.
You're literally saving the world pretty much every time.
Yeah. There's always, from the stories of the ones I've played, when I've got to the end, the enemies always tend to be some sort of splinter group that's gone rogue and is behaving in a not warfare friendly way. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the right way of saying that is, but it's never as black and white as this is the enemy's top pilot. That's not
these guys are the bad guys. That's
yeah.
Yeah, it's never that, is it?
No, there's always some depth to it. There's always
shades of grey.
Yeah, which I think is really, as I say, as silly as these plots tend to be. Well, I guess as silly as the plot points tend to be.
Yeah.
And as predictable. It's an interesting take. And I don't think there's many other games that do that.
Certainly none that have generated a series.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I guess Cannon Fodder's an anti-war game where you spend the whole time shooting people.
Mm-hmm.
But there aren't many. There's, what was the recent one called? Really good game.
You're not thinking of Spec Ops: The Line, are you?
That's exactly what I'm thinking of. Spoilers, everybody. Dave is about to say something about Spec Ops: The Line.
It's the one where you go mad and it turns out that all the stuff you were doing in the first half of the game was you committing war crimes.
Yeah, fabulous game.
I've never actually played it. I've read a lot about it and know that it's very, very well thought of.
Yeah, it's Hearts of Darkness. It's basically all Apocalypse Now, which is the same story. In case someone living under a rock didn't know that, but yeah, it's brilliant, like genuinely brilliant. The thing about it is, you get to the end and there are questions, right? And spoilers continue for everybody here, because there are different ways to end the game, and all of them kind of raise questions. And I think, as much as I don't like to say this sort of thing, people who don't get it see that as a bad thing, that there's not a defined ending, or that the ending you choose can sometimes go against what's been going on in the game beforehand. And but I think if you've got that problem, then you don't get the game. The developers of the game refused to develop the multiplayer element that the publishers demanded that they do, so it was done by Xbox, because they were like, no, you don't get it.
It's not what it's about.
It's not what it's about. So yeah, the multiplayer was actually developed by a different team. It was released at that time when you couldn't not have multiplayer.
Well, yeah. This is post Call of Duty, presumably.
Yeah, you're basically knocking 3 points off your review scores everywhere before you even start.
Yeah.
But if on the off chance that anyone out there hasn't played that game, it's just brilliant. I'm talking to you, Dave. You haven't played it. Like all good, I was going to say art then, but that sounds really wanky. But it is sort of leaning that way. It's got something to say, and if having something to say makes you art, then it's art. It's fun to play. Yeah. And if it wasn't fun to play, it wouldn't work.
It's fun to commit war crimes.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the problem. If it didn't, it's like, if you didn't enjoy watching Starship Troopers so much, then the whole point of it wouldn't really work, would it?
Yeah. You're supposed to feel guilty about enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the lines that Spec Ops draws. I didn't play 3. You said you did. Any good?
It's different. Like you said, it's sort of a little bit futuristic. The HUD of the aircraft is quite clearly not based on real cockpits. It's got like it's really interesting actually. You get like the sort of the horizon line, don't you? Yeah. On a proper like cockpit display. Yeah. They don't really need to bother with it in a flight sim because you can see where you are pretty much all the time. But that's like it's kind of like a 2-dimensional projection from you.
Oh, okay.
So that moves like as you move around. It's a very odd effect, and it took me a little while to get used to.
Like you've got a hula hoop hovering around your plane.
Yeah, giant halo around you, effectively. And I thought that was really, really good. That was really interesting. And it just looks a little bit different. Like it's clearly not. They're not going for the ultra realistic cockpit view that they sort of tried to go for before.
Is it? And again, I don't know what I've read about it. And again, possible spoilers here. I don't know what about made it into the European version and what didn't. But at least some of it is set in a simulator.
Oh, okay.
So, like it's not, this might not have made it into the version at all. So it might all be in the real world in the European version. But it's like the battles are fought in simulation because, the technology has advanced that far that they don't have to be real world battles. I may have completely misunderstood what I was reading.
That sounds like Ender's Game.
Yes.
Have you seen or read that?
I saw the film, wasn't a big fan, but I understand it's not a great version of the story.
Yeah.
I'm interested in Electricity. I can't figure out in my brain whether. I guess what I'll do, I'd like to play the original version first. I think is where my head is at with it, and then go back and have a look at what's different.
Okay.
Rather than play the different version and then go and play the actual version. I think it'd probably sit better in my brain for that way. But one thing that playing the games over the last week or so, and that I want to play them all.
Yeah. I'd like to spend more time with each of them, actually. Maybe not see them all through and get all of them, but certainly a few hours into 7, I can carry on playing that quite happily. I don't know how much I could put into the first one. It is rough.
No, I think, my time with the first one is definitely over. It is ostensibly the game that this podcast is about today. And after this point, right now, we're never going to mention it again. I mean, much like the games themselves, because it's been kind of retconned out of existence.
Yeah.
There's a weird time and thing. So 2 is the first time they start talking about what we now know as the Strangereal universe and the weird...
Strangereal, it's called.
Strangereal. The Strangereal universe and the alternate planet Earth. So that first turns up in 2. But even the map in 2 has since changed. The world map they show you in 2 is not the world map now. Apparently in Ace Combat on the 3DS, which is called Assault Horizon.
That's the one that's delisted from Steam.
Yes, it's been delisted now, and I reckon Namco might have had something to do with that, because it was their attempt to sell Ace Combat to the Call of Duty Brigade.
Oh, okay.
I mean, shamelessly, it's like there's a sort of a combat mode. You get close to the plane in front of you, and it goes into completely autopilot, all designed just to look good. I'm going to do it already, very early into the episode. Gen 7, nobody wants to play a game, they just want to fucking watch them. Because that's what it was about. Oh no, I don't want to play a game, I just want to watch it.
Yeah. Our focus groups have found that people struggle when they're too close to the plane in front.
Yeah,
So we'll take away that necessity for you to do that.
Absolutely.
We'll make it a quick time event.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And there's like helicopter and turret missions and all this sort of stuff. It's all very Call of Duty.
Mm.
And it failed, and I like to think it failed because you can't just shut up people who care about a series that's been going on that long.
Yeah.
Because all the reviews were decent for it. It scored in the 80s in most reviews. But the word of mouth was this is a bad game.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the reviews say. The word of mouth from Ace Combat fans was no. Just, not my Ace Combat. And all that shit. Because it failed miserably. It was a massive disaster. And people thought that Ace Combat wasn't going to recover from it.
Yeah.
But interesting, the 3DS game with the same name, Ace Combat Assault Horizon Legacy, it's got nothing to do with that game. It is a remake of Ace Combat 2.
Oh, okay.
And part of the story, it mentions Ace Combat 1 and retcons Ace Combat 1 into the story just by saying this happened in whatever.
Yeah. That's
all the mention it gets. But it does have what Ace Combat on the 3DS has. It's very sort of... It doesn't have quite... The dogfight mode isn't completely auto-fly, but there is... you get to a point where you can... I think you press a combination of buttons and it aligns you perfectly behind the plane with a flashy manoeuvre of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
It's good fun to play the 3DS game, and it's nice, it looks good, it looks great on the 3DS in 3D mode looks brilliant.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, really, really good. And they released an updated version of it called Ace Combat Assault Horizon Legacy Plus because they thought it didn't have enough words in the name already.
Yeah, not enough colons.
Which they brought out for, I think it was supposed to be for, like, primarily for a Resident Evil game, but they built an add-on for the 3DS that gave you a second analog stick.
Oh, okay, that's good.
It's this massive chunky thing. It's like genuinely huge. And so you get 2 analog sticks rather than 1. And so this Legacy Plus version gave you 2 analog sticks for Ace Combat, which is very arcadey. And probably even for a game where you've got infinitely respawning missiles.
I was reading the Wikipedia page on Ace Combat, and it mentioned, where is it? I'll read it as it's written. The Ace Combat franchise emphasizes fast-paced action and dramatic plots with semi-realistic gameplay. For example, aircraft have flight dynamic controls and can stall, but are also able to carry dozens of missiles in hammer space. Have you ever heard of hammer space?
I've never heard of hammer space.
I've never heard the term, but I know what it is. You know when in a Warner Bros. Cartoon, Bugs Bunny pulls an anvil out of his pocket?
Oh, yeah.
It's that. It's the concept. It's the concept of bringing a stupidly large object out of potentially thin air. I just thought that's genius. I've never heard it described before.
That's great.
But yeah, the planes have infinite missiles, which is ridiculous.
Well, it's not infinite. It's just, I mean, when I noticed, I don't know why I noticed. I noticed on Air Combat that they were shown on screen, and there were lots and lots and lots of them. Whatever the first plane you get in Ace Combat 2 had specifically 84 missiles.
Oh, okay, that's quite specific.
Yes, I don't know why that is. And playing Distant Thunder yesterday, I actually, on a mission, ran out of missiles.
Yeah, I was going to say 7 is a bit more realistic.
Yeah, and I think you can fly back and refuel. You can basically ditch out, cross the line, land it, get another 107 missiles loaded into hammer space on your plane, and then fly off again.
I don't know why it really tickled me, this concept of
hammer
hammer space.
Brilliant. I've never heard that before.
No, it's fantastic. The term sort of was coined by fans of anime.
Yeah.
2 specific anime get listed, but as a thing, it's been around probably since like early stage shows, like turn of 20th century.
Yeah.
Certainly used in the 30s and the 40s in films, where it'd be seen as a visual trick that you couldn't do on stage.
Yes.
But with editing and whatever, you could pull something out of nowhere.
And like you say, the genius that was Tex Avery.
Yeah.
That did that constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, go and watch some Tex Avery cartoons.
There's a lot of Roadrunner available online.
Is there?
I've sat and watched quite a bit of it.
Tex Avery is an absolute god. But yeah, no, I'm loving hammer space.
Yeah, it's great.
That's going into my personal lexicon. But yeah, we're jumping around all over the place in this timeline. But basically, yes, Assault Horizon Plus, no, Assault Horizon Legacy, is basically 2. And then, 3 jumps ahead into the future and goes all bonkers. And then 4 comes along. I want to know what Ace Combat 4 is called in Europe.
Released as Ace Combat Distant Thunder in Europe.
There we go. So Distant Thunder is what I was playing earlier today. So that's 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Squadron Leader must be 5. And then the Balkan War, which is Ace Combat 0.
Yeah.
Is there an Ace Combat 6, though?
There is an Ace Combat 6, which is Fires of Liberation.
Oh, yes. That's a Xbox 360 exclusive.
2007, Gen 7.
For some reason, it just doesn't quite play right.
Okay.
It's one of those things I can't put my finger on, which I really dislike. Because I've played games for long enough and been doing fucking blogs and videos and shit for so long. I felt I'd be a bit more articulate than this. But something about the Fires of Liberation just isn't right.
Okay.
It's fine. It plays fine. I think it might be set in the real world rather than Strangereal. Sorry, what are we calling it?
Sangreal.
Sangreal. So basically 4, 5 and 0 are like they're the Holy Trinity. Those are the games that are loved by the fan base, which is great because those are the games that do this whole anti-war thing. And
well, reading up on the plot of Zero makes me really want to play it because it's sort of a prequel. I would guess where the Zero comes from to the rest of it. But the country, is it Belka or Belkan? Belka basically start a war because they're like in economic crisis,
right,
with loads of their neighbours to try and like land grab and resource grab and everything. It doesn't go well for them, and as a last ditch, when it looks like they're going to lose the war, as a last ditch effort, spoilers, they nuke themselves.
What?
They nuke their own country, which is why in future games, Belkans are always seen as like really hard-ass bastards.
Yeah.
Because they do this scorched earth thing of just like, what, we're going to lose, fuck it, nuke the country.
Wow.
And that sounds really interesting. I want to see how they get to that point.
I have that. That's unfortunately, we're doing this podcast too early because that's currently in the Royal Mail system heading its way to me as we speak.
Spoilers. They nuked themselves. It's on the Wikipedia page. It's not a spoiler.
Yeah, but still spoilers. Thank you for saying that beforehand. But yeah, it's because I heard this whole thing about these are the 3 best games, and I just thought, well, I've got to get it now because I've got the other 2 and I've played them. I played both a bit weirdly. I must have had Squadron Leader first because I played more of that than 4. But I love them. I bought 7 because I played 6 and it didn't quite feel right, as I said. So I was like, I don't. And again, I wish I could put my finger on what it was. It just wasn't. It wasn't not my Ace Combat. You know what I mean? So yeah, I read up a bit about that.
Is it a control thing? Is it like flight dynamics don't feel right? Or...
to be completely honest with you, I can't remember.
Oh, okay. So it's not a recent thing.
No, it was. I think it was in during the COVID days,
right?
Those old days. But it just didn't grab me the way. I mean, I played 7, and immediately 7 is Ace Combat.
7's very good.
It's what you want from Ace Combat, updated, doing the thing, doing the heartfelt story thing. I mean, is it a bit much sometimes? You know, it's the acting like ridiculously earnest 100%, right? It's the script a bit corny, of course it is.
It has to be.
It believes in what it's doing. It genuinely just, it got complete confidence to do that. And it's all the better for it because every attempt they've tried to do something different on the spin-off games, it just don't work. It's not as much fun.
Yeah. I did like 7. I quite like the Dirty Dozen style plot.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite fun.
Yeah.
Because normally it's just, you're just this ace pilot. That's it. You one dimension to your character. That's all you are.
Yes.
Literally a line sums you up in one go. Done. But no, I thought it was quite interesting. The idea of like you earn time off your sentence or something.
Yeah.
If I remember right. I thought that was quite good.
Absolutely. No, it's very cool. Very cool that. But yes, it's a very good game. But I think, unfortunately, 4 and 5, I say I've played, and they're great. And it is, I think, I mean, as much as I guess you and I started with the games back in, I certainly played Ace Combat and Ace Combat 2 when they were current.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I played 3.
I'd never played 3 until yesterday.
Yeah, and love those games, particularly 2. 2's, brilliant game. Hours and hours into it. The PlayStation 2 games do feel like the sweet spot of the series until 7. I say 7 is, as good as you get, but that feels like, weirdly, that's what I expected Ace Combat to be, even though I'd never actually played them before. It was quite an odd thing, but yeah, great games, very, very cool, very just so playable.
Oh, they're great,
aren't they?
They're really good. If you've got any interest in flight or flying of any kind,
yeah,
definitely worth playing.
Yeah. And certainly in the later games, the amount of planes and the options you get is bonkers.
The available options for the things you can buy, the planes, the upgrades, the little additional things you can change each plane with as well.
Yeah.
It lends to endless replayability.
Yeah. No, absolutely, because you change the handling, the speed, the weapons. As some of the weapons later on in the game are absolutely bonkers.
Well, one of the things I've always liked, and I think they've done it from day one, is you can replay missions, can't you?
Yeah.
You can go back and play a mission with a plane you've bought later on.
Yes.
So you could do the ravine run later on with a faster or slower plane. Because I always remember the ravine mission in the first one, doing it in an A10 because it's able to go slower than every other plane without stalling.
Yeah.
So you give yourself a bit of leeway with the speed.
Tell you what I did, I completely forgot about air combat until I failed, was that you lose the plane.
Do you?
Yeah, it goes from your hangar. If you crash a plane, if you get shot down, you got off next time out, you're flying something else.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I completely passed me by. I don't even think you can rebuy it.
Oh wow.
I think it's gone forever.
That's quite harsh.
Yeah, but yeah, I lost. I say this nighttime mission that did for me in the end. Lost my Tomcat quite early.
That's a big loss.
Went back to play it in the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't good. But yeah, that sort of the structure of that is quite interesting. So it gives you those two planes straight off, the Tomcat and the Phantom, and you can immediately, if you want to, sell them.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep on hold of them. You can sell them as soon as you want, as soon as you fancy something else. And it's like you unlock like the stealth fighter, like at the end of the first mission, which is weird. I mean, it flies like a piece of shit, obviously.
So the F-117A.
That's the puppy. You went to Duxford recently, didn't you?
I did, and I got to see my favourite plane ever again, the SR-71 Blackbird. Beautiful, beautiful thing.
Smaller than you think, isn't it?
Yeah, weird. And also looks so different from every angle you see it from as well.
Yeah.
But it is a very cool thing.
Yes.
I remember when I first saw it about 20 years ago, I was so excited to see it. Blackbird. This is a plane that officially didn't exist for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And now you can just go to Cambridge and see one.
In a hangar crammed in with about 82 other aeroplanes.
Well, yeah, that's the only problem. It's right off to one side of the American aircraft hangar.
There's a Wii game called The Skycrawlers. The Skycrawlers Innocent Aces, to give it its full name. So it is, I think, based on an anime series. The art style is very much like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much Ace Combat. Plays very, very similarly. It kind of recreates, I guess it's kind of about 70% successful in recreating like a hot-ass style controller with the two motion control elements to the Wii controller.
Oh, okay.
So you've got your throttle is on your left stick and you tilt it backwards and forwards, and your right stick works like a joystick. And as I say, it's not unsuccessful. The game's more fun to play without it, to be perfectly honest with you.
Nice try.
But yeah, it's a very cool looking game, that, if you can find it anywhere. It's out of stock in every CEX in the country, so not easy to find. Most people, let's not beat around the bush, hacked their Wii so they could play games off a USB stick. So you probably did that and then played Mario Kart and Mario Galaxy and nothing else. So expand your palette. Play Skycrawlers, Innocent Aces. So there was 2 on the PSP, 1 on the Game Boy Advance. Are there any others? You got the list there.
There's Ace Combat Infinity.
Oh, that was online, wasn't it?
Yeah, PS3, which could have been brilliant.
I think it's a like online multiplayer almost, or massively multiplayer online, one of the two. So now the servers are shut down, so it doesn't exist anymore. I think that brings us up to date when that died. And
well, we did miss one out, which is Ace Combat XI, which was a iOS version.
Oh, really?
I would have been quite interested to play if I owned one.
Yeah. So you have to get.
Yeah, that could have been quite interesting, because we don't really talk about mobile games much, do we?
We don't. No, and I play a few of them.
They don't really cross over into the sphere of retro.
No, not yet. So we've done all the games. We've done them all.
Well, we didn't talk much about 7, did we?
How much of 7 have you played?
I can tell you the exact amount of time.
Of course you can, because it's on Steam.
8.7 hours. I spent a lot of time in lockdown playing Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I bought a hot ass setup for it, which I never really got into because it didn't suit the planes I was flying. And I saw Ace Combat 7 really cheap, I don't know, about a year or so ago, and I thought I should buy that. I should actually get around to using that. I tried it for about 5 minutes and then just went back to the Xbox pad.
Yeah.
It's just, as much as I want to play it like this, I can't.
Yeah, no, it's like me and the Nedgecon, all that all over again.
I know. The thing is, this is made for that.
I mean, but is it for race combat? It is a hot ass setup.
Yes,
right.
It's the perfect setup. Apparently,
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think it's just a skill thing. I just haven't learned it. I haven't got good enough with it.
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly that. I've only played Ace Combat 7 with an Xbox One controller, but I've played it for...
Didn't you say like 40 hours or something?
Yeah, 41 and a half hours, and
Nice.
I've got 55% of the achievements.
Mm-hmm.
In the PS2 games, and in 7 in particular, there's loads of secret planes.
Mm.
So you'll be doing a mission, and a plane will appear that's got a name.
Oh yeah, like an Ace pilot.
Yeah, and you can shoot down and get it. In 7 in particular, I came across one in 2 today actually. So it's clearly been the series doing it a long time.
Mm.
In 7, the way to make these planes appear is so specific. For some of them, they'll just appear. You know, in the mission at this point, he'll appear, and you've got to shoot him. In other things, they're so like you have to have destroyed so many of these sorts of planes, but none of this sort of plane, and then fly under this bridge, and then do a loop-de-loop, and then put your finger out and test how cold it is, and then it'll appear. And this sort of stuff you would never figure out.
It wouldn't happen organically.
No.
Yeah.
And so because I don't like guides, I don't like the fact that people, when I started to criticize Dark Souls, or possibly Dark Souls 2, people said to me, oh yeah, but looking up how to do things is part of the community. That's part of the way the game works.
Doesn't need to be.
No, and it shouldn't be, should it? It's great to have a community. You shouldn't feel like you have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you have to know stuff off the internet to be able to enjoy those games. But yeah, I think the thing with these named aces on the Ace Combat games is it doesn't change your enjoyment of the game. You play all the campaign missions and do all that, and it's, if you want to, you can go and look up on the internet how to trigger them. You've still got to shoot the fuckers down, which sometimes isn't.
You've still got to do the thing that triggers them. Do you remember Tokyo Highway Battle?
Yeah.
Had a thing, didn't it, where only specific conditions had to be met. You had to be driving a certain car in a certain area, beat a certain type of other car
at a certain time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they would appear and flash the headlights and then thrash you.
Yeah.
It's such cool games. So basic, those games, but I played it so much. So much.
They're great fun.
But yeah, the AI wasn't good, was it?
No.
Because I remember getting to the last car and tuning my car so that it would accelerate from the speed where you start the race, whatever that speed is, probably about 50 miles an hour, to like 100 miles an hour quickly as possible, and was shit in every other regard. And just as soon as the race started, got in front of him and then basically parked my car in front of it, and he couldn't drive around me because the AI was so shit. And that's how I beat Tokyo Highway Battle.
I used to do the exit ramp trick.
Oh, yeah.
Get in front just as the last possible second, just dart off onto another road, and they go straight off and lose it instantly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. But just, very cool games. What are we doing next, mate?
I think we should do Football Champ.
Oh, that's a good shout.
We can record 2 versions of the podcast. One where we win and one when we lose. Be really upbeat and happy. But no, I mean, we could expand that out to just cover all football games. Yeah,
I mean, we can't help it, can we? But no, I think it's a great place to start. No, great shout. Football Champ. Love a bit of Football Champ. Hat-trick Hero, aka.
Yes.
But yes. No, that's a good. You're right there. A little bit of us wallowing in self-pity after the tragic failings of the England football team.
We haven't really done much in the way of sport. I mean, we did NBA Jam, didn't we? I suppose.
Yeah, and I mentioned Football Champ in the NBA Jam episode, but I think as much as we've accidentally found ourselves doing lots of different genres, we never set out to do a different genre. Every episode, it just kind of happened that way.
Yeah.
I looked around for ages for a cocktail for this game. I did names, I did aeroplanes, I did fucking protagonist names, I did look for flight this, fly that, battle this, wing, everything, just looking for names, and just nothing I found I could make.
Oh, okay.
And it's from now on, not from now on, from a little while back, because I was quite sort of annoyed at myself for not trying a cocktail that I talked about. So I am going to try very, very hard to drink the cocktail that I mentioned in this bit of the game. I don't expect you to do the same thing because it's much more my thing than yours. And I really appreciate you going along with it. And you do find some great sounding stuff. But yeah, so I eventually found one video of a bloke on my favourite social media channel, TikTok. And he was making a drink called the Stonehenge Punch.
Oh, nice.
So yeah. So in case you missed that bit from earlier on, Stonehenge is a key plot point in the Ace Combat games, not the monoliths in the southwest of the UK, but the garden that's designed to shoot down an asteroid in the plot of the game. And so yeah, so it's an odd one. It's got a familiar feel to it in terms of the ingredients, because it's bourbon, rum, lemon juice, simple syrup, and Angostura bitters. And I think if you were to just say bourbon, lemon juice, Angostura bitters, I think that's pretty much a whiskey sour or something along those lines. I put the exact ingredients into differs, and there's a cocktail called a cotillon, Cotilllion,
okay, which
is very similar ingredients, but including triple sec as well, and different proportions to this. So this does seem like it's as much as familiar as it seems. It does seem to be a bit of a one-off, and it's really, really nice. So it's equal measures, shot each of bourbon and rum, and then half a shot each of simple syrup and lemon juice, and then Angostura bitters, which is something that I think if you've ever made one cocktail at home, you'll have a bottle of Angostura bitters kicking around at the back of your cupboard somewhere. But yeah, I was genuinely surprised at how nice it was. I thought it was going to be basic. You know what I mean? One of those cocktails you just, this is just, a bit of whiskey. But it's got real, what's the word? Complexity.
Okay.
It starts off tasting like bourbon, then the rum kind of kicks in, and then the you get kind of the sweetness, and then the lemon, and it just got layers. It's just really, really, really delicious. And it's a simple thing. I think, again, lots of people who make cocktails are going to have a rum, they're going to have a bourbon. Everyone's got a bottle of Jack Daniels kicking around their cupboard, don't they? And then just lemon juice and Angostura bitter, a bit of sugar syrup. But yeah, I highly recommend it. I haven't got any provenance. I can't tell you where it comes from or anything like that, which I normally like to do, sadly. But there is a geezer who I will thank in his comments called Cocktails Newbie. It's also on. This TikTok video is on YouTube as well. So I'm going to give him a thank. I've already given it a thumbs up, like and subscribe. But I'm going to give him a shout out and say thanks for doing that, and then I can pimp him our little podcast. But yeah, I would recommend that drink wholeheartedly. Also, the cotillon. This I'm going to mention this anyway. It's not really related to Ace Combat, but the Stonehenge Punch is served in like a whiskey glass with a lot of ice. So like one of them. But there's this the cotillon is a coupe glass, and it's the I'd say the ratios are a lot different. That's 45ml of bourbon, 15ml of triple sec, 7.5 of rum, and then a tablespoon each of orange juice and lemon juice. Also sounds nice. Sounds like the orange is going to be quite forward in that though, with the triple sec and the orange juice in there. But sounds nice, and I'll try that because I've got those ingredients too. But I can't swear by it because I haven't tried it yet. But definitely give yourself a go at a Stonehenge Punch. Look up this geezer, Cocktails Newbie on YouTube. It's one of his videos. Do you know what? I do remember a bit of provenance actually, and I don't know where it is because it's not on this video I've got running on my screen now. But I remember looking up and say it was invented by somebody at the Stonehenge bar.
Oh, okay.
And I remember, in particular, that the Stonehenge bar is in, of course, Connecticut.
Exactly where I'd expect it to be.
Exactly. So I've read that somewhere. Perhaps that's on the TikTok page, actually, because it's not on this YouTube page. But anyway, yeah, great drink. Give it a shot.
Excellent. I was going to say as well, with the sort of the bourbon and the rum in there, you could change it up a bit by just changing the brand of either of those.
Oh yeah, but better spiced rum or something.
There's a billion rums under the planet.
Absolutely.
There's God knows how many bourbons out there. So yeah, that'd be quite variable with different base.
They're absolutely sure. I mean, you want to stick with not a white rum, basically. I wouldn't use Bacardi or anything like that, but anything.
Kraken.
Yeah, that would be delicious. Yeah, and but 100%. Yeah, I think absolutely right. And bourbons, Jack Daniels is the one that everyone's got. It always leaves a bit of a burn because it's not particularly high quality. So you could get a different one and mix up. You could even try. There's like cinnamon bourbons and stuff like that, isn't it? You can.
Fireball whiskey.
Right, you've got 2 cocktails to share with me.
I have got 2 cocktails. I've narrowed it down to 2. Original list of about 6. Mostly just puns on people from Top Gun. So like Goose, Iceman. I did keep the Maverick because that sounds quite nice. But the cocktail I've gone for is the Hot Shot.
Ooh.
Which I thought was a nice play on the Ace from Ace Combat.
But also the name of the Charlie Sheen Top Gun.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave, the favourite.
That is a bizarre film.
Favourite joke, I think it might be in Hot Shots Part 2. Is this, they're looking at a map. Someone's been kidnapped and they're being held somewhere, and they go to a map to show where it is. And he says they're about here, and he points to the map, and on one side of the map is Iraq, and on the other side is a place called A Hard Place. Brilliant. Yeah, they're not great films. They're that Jerry Abrams spoofy kind of thing, and they were past their best by then, weren't they? But there's still some great gags in there.
Yeah, they're very much like a few laughs along the way, ridiculous plot.
Yeah,
and Valerie Gelino,
of course. But I mean, this is what I mean by they've fallen a long way, because Airplane is non-stop, start to finish, laughing.
That's best comedy ever made.
It is, and it's one of those where as the film goes on, things happen that remind you of what the next joke is going to be, and you start laughing before the jokes happen.
I start laughing with the lead in. As soon as anything starts, like it switches to a different scene, my brain clicks.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yes, this joke. Never been in a Turkish prison. So yeah, the Hot Shot is 15 ml of Galliano, 15 ml of hot coffee, and 15 ml of single cream or half and half. It's a shot. It's smack it back.
Okay.
It's got quite an interesting backstory. It's created in 1987 by a Swedish bartender whose name I won't butcher, for a competition, a coffee cocktail competition.
Oh, cool.
And following the competition, his drink became popular across Sweden and beyond. It's just literally just invented, but apparently at parties in Sweden, people just chant hot shot, hot shot, hot shot while you're chugging them. Apparently got its own day. There's like the Hot Shot Cocktail Day, which is the third Friday of November. every year in Sweden.
I have to remember that.
Not actually much alcohol in it when you look at it.
No, I suppose if there's coffee in there, taking up a good chunk of it.
Only a third of it is actually alcoholic. But yeah, I'd chuck one of them back if I was at a bar and somebody said, "Do you want one of these?"
I mean, because of the history of the shot, one of the most famous shots of all time is the B-52.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many variations on the B-52.
Yeah.
If you go to Mr. Difford's website, is the hot shot on Mr. Difford's website?
It is on Difford's, yeah.
So if you're already on there, you go to the B-52, you will see many variations it's on the B-52 page. At the bottom of the page there, he lists off a whole bunch of them. There's a couple of them that I'd quite like to give a shot. I'm not really into shots so much.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
But there was one, me being a fan of aniseed flavours in general, there was one that had absinthe in it. Either called the B-55 or the B-52 gunship. Coffee liqueur, Irish cream liqueur, and absinthe. I'm not sure that goes well together, but...
No, I wouldn't mix Kahlua and Baileys.
No. Well, there's so much...
It's separate and curdle individually.
There's one called an F16, which is coffee, Irish cream, and light white rum. Which is apparently good because those layer, because all these drinks layers. The B-52,
yes,
it layers up.
The hot shot looks great.
Yeah,
John Difford's is really good.
I'll grab a quick purchase. But yeah, apparently the F16 is a particularly easy one to layer, so that's a handy thing to know if you're trying to show off. Yeah. I mean, apparently the way to help when you're layering up is to chill everything first.
Okay.
So I suspect.
Hot coffee doesn't really work for that.
Hot coffee doesn't really follow, does it? But yeah, it is a thing. I mean, normally when you see these drinks, whenever they're layered up, it says in the instructions, chill all the ingredients. And this one doesn't. This one just says layer by carefully pouring the ingredients.
Well, it was invented in Sweden, so it's cold anyway.
So you said you had it down to 2. What was the other one?
The other one was the Maverick.
Oh, okay.
Because just flight sims and Top Gun are just inseparable.
Oh, of course they are. Yeah.
You play. If you're a kid born in the 80s, you watch 70s, and you watch Top Gun, and then you start playing a flight sim, you're gonna name yourself after one of those characters, pretty much. I mean, the only other option was Iron Eagle, and that was just rubbish.
What's in a Maverick?
Maverick is 1.5 ounces of vodka, half an ounce of triple sec, half an ounce of amaretto, or any other almond liqueur. Then 1 ounce of pineapple juice and 2 teaspoons TSP. Yeah. 2 teaspoons of Galliano herbal liqueur.
Oh, Galliano's back again, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's having his day.
Yeah, shake ingredients of ice, strain into an old-fashioned glass of ice.
Oh, nice.
I thought that sounded quite nice. Vodka, triple sec, amaretto.
Yeah, the pineapple's throwing me a bit, but
yeah, I'd try it and then try and change that out for something. Probably cranberry would work better.
No, good shouts, mate. Both of those. I think I tried the Top Gun thing for a bit, but I didn't find any of them. That's about it for the Ace Combat series. We're doing Football Champ and probably every other football game in existence.
1 or 2 at least.
Next time out. I have some particular favourites I'm already looking forward to mentioning. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope you come back next time for Cocktail Mode, the podcast where gaming, like alcohol, is in our blood.